Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Full Court Press. I am your host, Drew Duncan. Do not forget that Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Additionally, you can find me on YouTube. Simply look for Drew Duncan. And, of course, the Full Court Press is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. Simply at TFCP83. And don't forget, you can also find us on Spotify and Spreaker. Just tell your device for the Full Court Press by Drew Duncan on Spreaker or Spotify. Game 4 is officially in the books. Toronto goes up 3-1 in the series and is one game away from their first ever NBA championship in the short history under 30 years of the team's existence. I tell you what, this was a fast, physical game of basketball. And regardless of what the final score was, I'm going to tell you right now, both teams left this all out on the court. I mean, that's just the bottom line of this basketball game. There's a lot of ins and outs to it, but really just to kind of set this thing up, this was a very physical game of basketball for both teams. And it was also very sloppy for both teams, especially in the entire first half. I've been saying all along that the first quarter didn't look very good for either team. But really in this last game, this was horrendous. I mean, I think both teams combined got off to a 3 out of 13 start. Both teams combined missed their first 5-point, 3-point attempts. I mean, to accurately kind of depict this, it almost looked like an NCAA championship game, maybe even a high school championship game. I mean, these teams, both of them looked like they were nervous again from the outset. They were running all up and down the floor, and they were trying to set this pace and gain control through this pace. And I don't think either one of these teams really took the time until the Raptors later on in the game to really just kind of slow down and run an offense. We'll get into that. There was a lot of standing around on defense for the majority of the game from the Golden State Warriors. You know, it wasn't that really Toronto or that Golden State was playing good defense in that first half. Really, in any of these games, to be perfectly honest with you, it was just the struggling to make shots of the Raptors. Now, Kawhi Leonard did get off to a pretty good start. First quarter, I think 5 out of 8, 14 points. Matter of fact, 14 of the 17 points for his team, the Toronto Raptors, who were down by double digits eventually in that first half. I think it was 11. And I want to say that it was good ball movement by Toronto. To an extent, it was, but it wasn't. Guys were just not hitting shots. I mean, he had Van Fleet early on, unable to connect. You know, he had a good look from a step back, wasn't able to hit it. You had Lowry missing from an easy step back, wasn't able to hit it. You had Van Fleet again, rotation pass, top of the key from the 3, unable to hit it. You had Danny Green, who didn't score a single point until the fourth quarter after going 6 out of 10 in the last game. It was just really a bad performance shooting-wise. And I'm sitting there watching this game, and initially I'm thinking to myself, even though Golden State's ahead, I'm going, they're trying to give this game away. But Toronto's just not going to let them, I guess. I mean, that's just really kind of what it looked like to me. And the thing about Golden State early on in that game was, especially in the second quarter, where I thought they were pretty much at their best if I were to say anything about them defensively. I mean, they were double-teaming Kawhi Leonard, and they were forcing him to get rid of the ball, and guys were open, but they just weren't able to make shots. I really thought that the Toronto Raptors could have won this game by 30. I felt like early on they were really just kind of beating themselves. And the other part was Golden State really did get a lot of second chance points early on. I mean, that was a big part of what was going on with them. They were getting rebounds, they were getting tip-ins, especially in that first quarter, deep into that second quarter. And by the way, Kawhi Leonard, for as good as he played, one of the things that I talked about was I still haven't seen a full 4-quarter game from him. Still haven't. Second quarter, no points. And that was a big part of why Golden State was able to take control of the game. Again, defensively, the way that they were doubling down on him, and they were just saying, look, these other guys, we're not trusting them enough to make shots. I mean, at the end of that game, when Steph Curry, they said it was bad defense, why would you leave Danny Green like that? That was because Danny Green wasn't playing well. It was a calculated risk by Steph Curry to make that move, who, by the way, after a brilliant 47-point performance, really struggled in this basketball game. Klay Thompson was really the focal point, if you ask me, for the Golden State Warriors at the end of that first half. I think he had 14 points, if I remember correctly. Shot the ball very well. I think he was 6 out of 10 in the first half. But neither teams really looked spectacular shooting the basketball. Think about it like this. At the end of the first half, the Toronto Raptors only shot 16% from downtown. Kawhi Leonard didn't score a single point, was 0 for 4 shooting, and the team as a whole shot 32% overall. And the Warriors really weren't much better. I think they were only 14% from the three-point line at the end of that first half. I mean, really, when it boiled down to it, both of these teams were missing some exceptional looks. They just weren't able to capitalize. But I'm going to give credit to Kawhi Leonard because he really came out blazing in that second half. Hit his first 3 out of 5 shots, scored 14 points in the third quarter, and to top it all off, the Toronto Raptors go on a 20-6 run in the third quarter where the Golden State Warriors have been the premier team in the NBA in the third quarter. The last 2 games, the Toronto Raptors have been that. It really got physical in that third quarter. It got exceptionally physical in that third quarter. Bodies started flying around. Guys were all over the place. Both teams were still trying to play this up and down style of basketball. And there were times when it looked like a train wreck had happened. I mean, it was seriously physical basketball. Look at the exchange with about 4:40 or so to go into the third quarter. I think it was Curry went in for a layup strong. Lowry came down. He collapsed on himself. Kawhi starts to make a move down the court. He's running full speed, runs right into Bogut, who hammers him. I mean, these were tough fouls that these guys were getting. Look what happened to Fred VanVleet, right? Sean Livingston comes down right on top of him. It was incidental, by the way, but he lost a tooth. Then on top of that, his eye's cut and he needs 7 stitches. But it just showed you how everybody was starting to crash toward the boards. That's how physical the game was. Everybody was on the interior. Everybody was doing everything that they could to try and make this work. But they had to because eventually both teams kind of started to figure out that they weren't really hitting a lot of shots. But Toronto, as the game went along, started making those open looks. And I'm telling you right now, the guy in this game that I'm really going to point to is Serge Ibaka. Serge Ibaka was huge in this game off the bench. Defensively, with rebounds, scored 20 points. When all was said and done, Kawhi and Serge, they're the reasons for this victory for the Toronto Raptors. And defensively, they did okay, I guess you could say. But honestly, I think because of the intense pace that was set for a good majority of this basketball game, I think the Warriors really just got gassed. I mean, this came down to conditioning and stamina, and the Warriors were just not at the same place or same level that the Toronto Raptors were tonight. By the way, specifically Serge Ibaka in only 22 minutes, 9 out of 12 from the floor, 1 for 1 from the tray line, 20 points. Picked up 4 rebounds and a couple of blocks. You know, the Warriors did have a chance to win this game late, by the way, despite the fact that they were down in double digits for, by the way, the 7th consecutive game in these playoffs. They were down by double digits. I think it was about 5:33 remaining in the fourth quarter. The Raptors had them in the bonus. You know how you win games when you're down by double digits like this? You start getting to the line, you start crashing hard inside, and you just start driving the ball and being physical. give yourself a chance to score points without the clock moving. And even then, though, when they did get those opportunities, they still didn't really hit the free throws. The Warriors were just not as poised as the Raptors were tonight. At one point in the second half, Toronto, by the way, 7 out of 10 from three-point range. Dramatic change in their three-point shooting. Look, one of the things that I talked about was using Kawhi Leonard correctly. They've been sitting him on the bench at the beginning of fourth quarter, especially in the last couple of games. And on all three of their wins, this has happened. They were ahead, and they sat Kawhi in the fourth quarter, and their bench did exactly what I said needed to happen at the beginning of the series when I pointed out that, look, when I rest Kawhi, I need to be able to rely on my guys to hit a few buckets, play some defense, and keep me enough ahead in this game so that way my superstar can rest. And then when he came back in, he took back over, and he finished off the game. And by the way, the high pick-and-roll game was phenomenal for the Toronto Raptors in this game. I mean, it really did look like John Stockton and Karl Malone out there. It really did look like Gary Payton and Sean Kemp out there. High pick and rolls. There was even one play where they ran a pick and roll that was really a mock pick and roll, and they fooled the Golden State Warriors defensively. And Kawhi ran from the corner down through the baseline and was wide open and hit a nice little easy about 4-foot jumper. When they finally settled down and started running some half-court offense, that was when Toronto won this basketball game. And I think overall, when I look at this game, those are the differences. Serge Ibaka coming off the bench and having a phenomenal basketball game. Kawhi Leonard stepping up his game in the second half and not allowing that second quarter to dictate him throughout the whole ball game and keeping his confidence up and asserting himself as the guy for this team. The coaching, out-coached. Defensively, you could say they outplayed him, but again, both teams missed a lot of wide-open looks throughout the night. But being gassed for Golden State was definitely a huge factor in this basketball game. And then, of course, Toronto just never losing it. Keeping their heads on a swivel the entire game, being cool, calm, and collected. There you have it. Guys, I am Drew Duncan, host of the Full Court Press. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is all at Drew Duncan 83. Additionally, you can find the Full Court Press on social media. That is at TFCP83 on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And, of course, you can find yours truly on YouTube. And, as always, don't you dare touch that dial.